Snell.
Here.
Chris Stokes. Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Arlie Bozard.
Here.
Julia Coates.
Here.
Bradley Cobb.
Arnie.
Joe Crittenden.
Here.
Jody Fishinghawk.
Here.
Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskins Jr. Ty Glory Jordan.
Present.
David Thornton.
Present.
Kara Callan Watts.
Honey.
John Masters.
Oh.
We have a quorum.
Brother Joe, would you do the invocation, please? Yes, sir.
Stand. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this day of life. I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this meeting this evening that you've brought us all to. Father, I pray a special prayer for those that were the victims of the hurricane, those that were involved and lost their lives, and the families, the train accident. And Father, for the problem facing our country, the economy and Wall Street problems, give us guidance, Father, and help us be willing to follow your lead and your advice and your guidance. Pray, Father, for the leaders of our country. Pray a special prayer for our troops. Pray for our leaders of our tribe, the executive branch. I pray you'd bless each one of us, give us wisdom and knowledge, and help us do good work for our people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen.
Approval of the minutes of the August 11th minutes, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Reports, Natural Resources, Angela Drew.
Well, as you can see, I'm not Angela. You just have to settle for second best. You have our report. If there's any questions, I would have to defer those to the staff that I've brought with me today. I would like to make one comment that the Marcoma Girls Gym has been completed, has been inspected by us, and we have turned that over to Health Services, and they are moving into that facility as we speak today. The other Marcoma Boys section will be completed by the end of the month, and we should be moving the other staff members into that facility. So with that, I would entertain any questions.
Who have a question? Brother Joe.
About the facility for workout and that type of stuff, what do you call it?
The gym?
Is that done?
The gym will be completed hopefully by the end of the week, yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And more federal building.
Not done yet, but we're still working towards it. Okay. They have all the information that we need in central office in D.C. We're just waiting for them to act on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Angela.
Mr. Chairman, I just handed Mr. Farmer our Saline courthouse report. On one of the bullets, which is referring to the lead-based paint encapsulation, I spoke with Bob Short right before I came over, or you would have had a date on that. Bob said that basically their funding source, which is the EPA, he said they are moving slow as molasses on that, and that as soon as he gets his award letter, that they will hopefully start the work on that sometime shortly after 10/1, and he said if everything went perfectly, he would hope to have that work done by the end of December. He said so that could be a really nice Christmas present for us if everything gets moving along accordingly. So if you have any questions on that specific report, I'll try and answer that for you as well.
Who have a question? Yes.
Angie and Mr. Secretary, I don't have a question on that, but some times ago, Angela, I'd asked for a report on the pine trees there at Kenwood,
Yes.
and I never did get that. Do you have that on where I can take a look at it?
Well, what we are currently doing is we have been working on our forest management plan, the revision of that, and we have a resolution that we are right now putting through the administrative routing clearance, and then we will get that to you for your review before the October meeting at Bull Hollow. And there's some really good changes in that plan. Currently, right now, we cannot do any harvesting, any thinning, anything with our pines right now without getting the approval of the Bureau. And the modifications that we made to the new plan, we can do any type of project that we want to, up to $15,000 at a time without the Bureau having to approve us to do that. And so it really gives us a lot more freedom as to what we can do with the resources that we have. And so I'm anxious for you guys to get that and to make any suggestions to us as to what you would like to see added to it. But the Bureau has already made their first review of it. Brent Goring and some more of the agricultural forest staff has looked at that, and we were extremely surprised that it did not come back with any additional changes or anything to it. So we're really hoping that you guys will like what you see and we can get that approved.
A follow-up question. Have you been in touch with staff governments to see if we could take an exception to those rules that the BIA has? I know in some of the DOI programs you can write and ask for an exceptions on those rules, and it looks to me like when we're dealing with trees and forests, stuff like that, it doesn't seem to be a big deal to ask for an exception on those and get them, but there may be other things prohibited from getting the exception. But you may want to visit with Vicki Hanley or some of the people in self-government to see if we can get those exceptions on, because $15,000 is good. I'm glad we got that, or going to be getting it.
Sure, but
That doesn't, we'd like to do more. So if you would, and I'll visit with Vicki too to see if we can write an exception to that rule.
yeah, I sent Vicki a copy of
Oh, you did? Okay, so
Yeah.
she's aware of it.
Yeah, she's got all of it, but thank you for bringing it up to me because there's probably more stuff that we can look at doing.
Yes,
So-
they'll give you some exceptions to rules that
Okay,
we can add.
we'll visit with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have more questions? Mr. Baker?
Yes, sir. In the report, it has checked progression of chicken pens and wild saviors. What is that all about?
We do have a cultural resources budget, and as you know, we are doing a ethnobotany
Yes.
database, and we have some areas where we are growing some of those things, and we're just, Pat checks those to make sure they're progressing well, and so that's just one of his routine things that he's watching over right now. So we're growing some of those things.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Real Estate Services, Linda Donaldson.
Good afternoon. And I handed out a copy of my report. I hope everyone got a copy. Basically, we did for the past month, we did an easement on the Marcoma property for AT&T to put a fiber optics cabinet. It's going to be right there next to the PACE facility. We're working on the Complex 1 trust acquisition. The last day for comment on that was September 10th. They didn't receive any, so we're hoping that will continue to progress. The Patton property, which is up at the Y, the environmental document has been approved with no requirements at the central office in D.C., and a 30-day notice is to run in the paper. They said it would run last week, but it hasn't yet. We've been checking the paper. It's not been there yet. So hopefully that will come out this week. We reviewed 6 cemeteries for GPR. We've been working with Community Services and Education on doing GPR work on cemeteries, which is the ground penetrating radar to establish where graves are. We managed to accomplish 1 last month on the Moss Ridge Cemetery in Delaware County. Apparently that was a pretty big cemetery. We also purchased a car wash built down on Downing and Water Street. And we purchased 53 acres in Bonita. That was for the new health clinic there. And then the other page was some of the regular stuff that we normally do. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Cobb.
I got 2. What'd you pay per acre for that 53 acres in Bonita, do you know?
about $17,008.
That's what I want to know. Next thing, tell me how Shalaka is going as far as this gas lease stuff.
We have our own resolution is on for tonight to full council for us. We are trying to push through with the other tribes to work with us, and I think we're down to the point of doing their resolutions for them to help them move along. I talked with one of the companies today, Warren Thomas with Sullivan Company, and they are wanting to pay $10 an acre for the seismic, and that would basically give each of those tribes about $8,000+ just for them to run their seismic truck over their land. Of course, we would get more than that because we have more acres than they do.
What was the guy's name from Sullivan Company?
Warren Thomas.
Okay. And who's doing most of that negotiating?
I'm doing a lot of
You're
it.
doing a lot of it?
Mhm.
What point are you at in some of that, just on the seismic right now? Or?
We're talking seismic right now, but we're also talking about the tying up the property because they're willing to do the seismic at no cost, and they're going to pay us money to run the truck over it. That we're talking about tying up the property for about 5 years for them to have basically it's a concession on the property. And then they're talking $25 an acre as to the bonus acres, 3/16 as a mineral royalty. If they put a well site on their property, because we're looking at leasing in segments, like 160 acres at a time. Then if they see in the seismic that this is the best place to go, they'll want to lease that first. And if it's on our property and they put a well on it, then they'll pay $6,500 per well site as damages. And if they put a tank battery on it, it will be another $6,500. And that's kind of how we're looking at going forward with this.
Have you negotiated mandatory drilling requirement within the lease term?
We will. We're going to put all the mandatory things that the BIA is requiring.
Okay. Have you negotiated, or have you been talked about with Sullivan Company, any social programs being negotiated?
No, we haven't talked about social programs. The only thing that we have basically really talked about on that kind of aspect was if there was any type of recreational or any type of area that the tribes would rather not see a well in that area, they want to have that not done there. Just like if it's a recreational area and they put up a park, they would not like to see a wellhead, a jack in their park.
As you're probably aware, a lot of oil and natural gas companies are open to negotiations, and a lot of times they're in the negotiations. A lot of times they'll put tribal infrastructure, schools, scholarships. That happens all the time with oil companies, and I'd like to see some of that happen. It is a pretty common practice that oil companies will pay scholarships for tribal citizens. They'll provide money for infrastructure for those tribes, even in Tahlequah, not even anywhere close to Shalaka. I'd like to see some of that.
No, we hadn't talked about that, but it is something that we can put on the table because we hadn't come down to a finalization of the terms yet.
Have you thought about having your royalty payments, where your royalty payments are going to pay out? At what point?
No, we hadn't talked about that yet either. But it would be basically after they set up.
Well, I'm talking about, is it at the wellhead, the pipeline, or is it at the facility?
Okay. No, we hadn't talked about that yet either.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Buzzard?
On the car wash downtown, and are we going to be tearing that down?
I think that might be in the works, but I hadn't heard on that yet. I know that was a little bit outside of where the tourism area was going to be, but they didn't want to miss out on a property that could well, end up being in the plan and then have missed it.
All right, thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you, Linda.
I'll get with you further on this one.
Roads and Transportation, Michael Lynn.
Good afternoon. I'll highlight some of the IRR projects that we've got going right now. Don't have any change or anything to report on Cedar Crest Road or Bridge. Still waiting on to hear back from the district attorney on that as far as the condemnation goes, or a counter offer to the landowner, so don't have a whole lot to report there. Daytown Dry Creek project in Delaware County, they do have the ag base all the way to the end of the project, and they are expected to start paving here the next week or two. They're just shaping up the rest of the project, doing some miscellaneous work that we've needed them to do, so that job will be finaling out hopefully within the next 30, 60, 90 days, somewhere in that time frame. And it will finish ahead of schedule, so we're in pretty good shape on that job. Red Barn Road here in Cherokee County is progressing. I'm sure the rain set a lot of the projects back. It is progressing. They're out of time. The contract has officially expired on that project, but they are progressing. They tell me they will be finishing the project. Rice Woodard Road, also here in Cherokee County, we are in the process of moving utilities. We've moved the power, and we're working on moving the television cable. We did get the variance from DEQ late last week on being able to locate the water and gas within the same trench, which will save quite a bit of money. So that variance has been issued, and that will go out to bid hopefully this week, if not first of next week. Now, when I say bid, not the whole project, but the bidding of the Cherokee Nation is going to be involved in the relocation of the water and gas as far as the trenching goes. So we will bid that part out. The project, though, I hope to see bid go out for construction hopefully mid to late winter. Twin Oaks Bull Hollow Road in Delaware County. We're finalizing our design on that project. We just finished having geotechnical boring done, or to find out what the soil and rock types are in those locations. We just finished that up today. That'll help us to make the final decisions on our design and figure out if we're going to have to do any rock blasting, for instance, or replace with suitable soils, things like that. Barber Road, also in the final stages of design. We've got a couple of major issues up there where a house is located extremely close to the road. It is a house that is it's not vacant by any means. They're using it, living in it. I think our final design has the edge of the back slope of the ditch coming about 13 feet from the front door. It's extremely, extremely close. We have not spoke with the landowner yet. We are trying to make contact with the landowner, but that's something that we'll be definitely looking into closer. We've got another parcel of property on there that the road is currently splitting the parcel, although with our widened right-of-way, we're taking almost the entire parcel with the exception of a couple of outer corners. We'll be looking at, there's no house on that, but we'll be looking at possibly just buying that whole parcel as well. Cookson Road Rehab or Overlay Project, Blue Top Road, you may know it as, is progressing very well. We've had a little problem with the asphalt out there. You've probably all heard or seen on the news where SIM material or SIM oil out of Tulsa has went under. That was the first supplier. They've since had to, that kind of threw things into a tailspin within the asphalt market. They've had to change oil suppliers 3 times, and we've been pulling our hair out on trying to figure out what the problems are with some of our materials testing, but I think we're about to work through that and get everything worked out as far as the asphalt testing goes. Lastly, I want to mention the Greasy Road over in Adair County. We are starting our design on that project, and it's going to be a little farther out, but the design is getting underway. As far as the non-IRR projects or the tribally funded projects go, we've got 2 projects coming to Executive Finance Committee this month. Pawpaw Creek Road in Craig County. for $15,000, and Brush Creek and Pine Knot Road in Delaware County for just under $31,000 for a total of $45,858. We'll have also a couple of refunds coming back to some tribal council members for, I don't have those listed, for some projects that came in under the original obligation, so those will also be noted on there. And I do want to mention that we've had a lot of requests here lately when it comes to these projects for additional funds or to change the project scope. And it's because of the oil markets and material prices going up. That's a major contributor. But another contributor is the fact that some of these requests are old. And I think you might have gotten some emails about some letters that went out that my office sent out to some county commissioners on projects that were extremely old in some cases. Some commissioners are really good about getting them done. Some seem to sit on the money for some time, and for various reasons. There's sometimes they do have good reasons for sitting on the funds. For instance, if they're waiting on state funds to come in or something like that. That's something that we definitely want to encourage, is try to partner up with the state or another entity to try to make these funds go a little farther. But there's other reasons, other times there's no good reason for them sitting on them, and then they come to us later and want us to contribute more funds to either finish the project, or they'll cut the project off and run it short. If it's a 3-mile project, they may have to cut it down to a mile and a half. Well, that's, in my opinion, that's the Cherokee Nation losing funds. Our dollar is not worth as much today as it was when that dollar was first obligated. We're trying to work on a policy to try to alleviate some of this. I just kind of want to bring it up today, make you aware. But we are trying to work on some policies to try to keep this from happening. Maybe try to get them to spend it within X amount of days, if we can. And there'll have to be some exceptions to that, I know, but we will be coming up with something and presenting it at some point in the future to try to alleviate some of this stuff. That is all I had to report. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions, Michael? Yes.
Michael, on the Kenwood Road, have you made a decision on what we're going to do there?
No, I did get a call or an email from Guy Engineering just last week, and I know the Commissioner Kendrick had asked the engineering firm to contact me about funding the design of those, I believe there's 6 bridges. What we're going to do is the Guy Engineering is supposed to be setting up a meeting with Delaware County to sit down and go over that. I want to know where the construction dollars are going to come from. If we're going to fund the design, who's going to fund the construction, and vice versa. If we fund the construction, who's going to fund the design? But no, there's not been a final decision made on that.
Any more questions for Michael? Mr. Lynn?
Thank you.
Environmental Program, Tom Elkins.
Sir. Good afternoon. I believe you have a copy of our report in front of you, so I won't go through that whole thing. I'll just point out a couple issues. We were scheduled to have an Environmental Protection Commission meeting at the landfill this month. We have 3 commissioners right now, and 2 of those gentlemen couldn't make it, so we called that off. It was just a matter of there was not going to be a quorum. There were really no issues there. In fact, most of the programs weren't going to physically be there because it was going to be located at the landfill. We were going to actually have a tour of that, but there were no issues that stopped that. It was just lack of quorum, and so I didn't want folks to drive out there for no reason, so we canceled that. Let's see. That's pretty much. We've really, for this fiscal year, we've by far exceeded our goals. We're going to have to reset those goals. We haven't looked at those in a while, and we need to stretch those out a little bit. We're going well past those each year, so we're going to redefine those for this next fiscal year and try to come out with a better set of goals for that. Did want to mention one thing that's not on here. We met on the 29th of last month with Ms. Cowan Watts. There were some invitations went out, and anyone, I want to extend that invitation to any of the council members for a sustainable energy and environmental conservation meeting. We wanted to look at some of the Cherokee Nation policies and the statutes that are in place and some that might come up and see a lot of our statutes just don't fit real good together with our rules and with our policies. We wanted to see what was in place, what's needed, and what might be needed by the council. So we met with those folks. We want to meet again on the 25th of this month. It would be, I guess, a week from Thursday in the administration. So if you can see fit to fit that in your schedule and wish to do that, we'd love to have any participation that we can. We've made out some assignments to some of the staff to look at some various areas of the nation, whether it be energy conservation or environmental issues, and we're going to come back and report back then and see if we can come out with some good ideas to see what policy exists, what policies need put in place, and if statutes are needed or if they're not. So I'd like to extend that invitation and open up for any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tom? Mr. President.
Tom, on the sampling at St. Creek?
Yes, sir.
Anything alarming on the creek that you found?
Not right now. Councilman, gentleman right there, Thornton, asked me about some sampling down near Gore, and I gave him that paperwork before. A lot of the drinking water samples that they take at some of these rural water districts, every now and again they exceed certain EPA limits by over chlorinating. They always chlorinate to kill bacterial contamination, and so they get that, and they get some trihalomethanes and some other issues with that. They're generally not of concern, but sometimes they get, as with the Forum Water District, and I've contacted that lady again, ma'am, or tried to, they exceed the limits on that. It's generally not a concern except for people that may have kidney issues or some other health issues. And when that goes out, they generally send that out to people on the water district and ask them to get with their doctor if they feel like there might be any issues. But generally with healthy people, it's not an issue. It's always better, they have to chlorinate to get rid of that contamination. Yeah. And sometimes they go overboard with it a little bit. So it is a concern there.
Any more questions for Tom? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Moving down to old business. Mr. Cowan Watts, are you here? This is for discussion only. Let's see what she has to. Where are you at, lady?
Move to table until next month.
Appreciate that.
I'll withdraw.
Councilman Watts, you have this whole business?
Oh, I totally think of you. Yes. Let's find my notes. Thinking reports would take longer than that. You guys are quick. Well, now I can't find it. Great. Okay, so I need to know, basically, I think I've sent a list out to folks about considerations for what we need to do for recycling or sustainable energy sources and stuff. So it's for discussion only today, but I wanted additional input from other council people about what they thought should be done through legislation. Particularly, maybe that nothing should be done, but what should be considered in formulating legislation.
Well, we've had did everybody remember the notes she's talking about? I remember reading the note on that. What do you, Kara?
There is legislation in front of you, but that's in the book, but I don't think that this is where we want to be at necessarily right now. I mean, it should be more items than this, and I don't know if these are the correct settings, like if that's the correct numerical goals.
This time.
Just wanted to bring out, ma'am, I know we talked about that last meeting, that I brought up that last meeting that we had the 29th, and the one that we have scheduled for next week. I know we looked at some of the recycling statutes that are in place, so I'm wondering if some of that might be redundant. We might look at that a little bit closer.
And I thought we were going to have like a report this month on what actually the tribe and CNA and CNI, if we could find the information, what has actually already been done.
We have, the folks that had the assignments out haven't given me much information yet. I think they're waiting for that next meeting to come out with something then. That's kind of where we're at. I think they were going to report back at that next meeting.
So if the body's okay with it, then if there's no questions, because nobody got excited about it, is that table it to next month when they're going to report out on what we're already doing.
I'll second. Take a motion to table.
Yes, and Mr. Jack Baker seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Move on down to new business. That's a solution sponsored by Councilman Baker.
Yes. Mr. Elkins has brought this forward. It's a resolution to seek a grant to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to provide environmental training to tribal citizens. We could provide training such as lead-based paint and asbestos removal, hazmat training, and refresher courses for hazmat training. Move for its approval.
Second. Have a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. On new business, item number 2, Councilman Baker.
This is also an environmental grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for Brownsfield Training Revolving Loan Fund. It provides funding for the grant to capitalize the revolving fund to make loans and provide sub-grants to carry out cleanup activities at contaminated sites. And I move for its approval.
Second.
Yes.
Could you just describe the matching fund requirement real quick?
Yes.
On the
There is a great matching fund. It's 20%, and of $1 million, that would be $200,000. We're putting together a letter right now to get a waiver for that. The problem is that the application, we have to have this in pretty soon. Of course, if it doesn't meet the nation's requirements for this kind of a match, we won't take it. If we can get it without the match, it's just we have to go ahead and put it in like this.
Typically, over a multi-year program like that, is that all required up front?
It is. The information is. The match would not be up front like that. And we hope, we've gotten waivers for matches like this in the past, and we're hoping we'll be successful with this.
Thank you.
Another thing with this is a question might be of the IDC. It's a loan program. It's almost like a pass-through. So the IDC, the indirect cost on this would be almost non-applicable.
Councilman Thornton, would you?
Call for the question.
Call for it, yeah. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Motion carried.
Mr. Elkins?
Yes.
Do these need to go to full council tonight? Is there time?
It's not that important.
Okay.
If you'd like to, that'd be great. If not, it's not that time sensitive.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Tarver.
I was really bored, I was a little late, I was like,
Councilman Bowden.
This is more of a comment than it is anything. I guess I wasn't on my toes a while ago when this Lane Courthouse report was sent out. If you look at the last bullet, it really concerns me. this Sling Courthouse has been in the making for the last 15, 20 years. Okay, and it's talking about this Sling master plan for title site renovation. The last sentence, it appears that the project may be completed in 2014. And I think that's a little bit long to have this Sling Courthouse waiting. Now, I've been on the council for a year, and we've talked about Sling Courthouse, but we haven't seen any movement. We're seeing the spring house, which I'm proud of that, and also the lead abatement, but, you know, if this master plan comes to us for approval, I'm certainly going to put some dates in there to do that. I just wanted to make sure the other tribal council members of this committee realize this, that, you know, this is one of our oldest courthouses, and the only one that survived. I wish there was something we could do besides waiting on grant money to do something with the courthouse. You know, we're going through with our master plan for tourism. This is left off. This to me is important. It's located on the Mays and Delaware County line, so I want to bring this up when the master plan comes for approval. We take that into consideration. Thank you.
Councilman Sir.
Yeah. Mr. Drews, it's my understanding that the master plan encompasses a lot more than just the structure. I mean, we're talking parking lots and all kinds of other facilities that are, to my understanding, been outside of the general topic of discussion. So when you're talking the master plan, you're talking the whole thing. And so I think it's just important that we also keep that in mind, is that there was some things in there that are, there's other things that need priority, obviously. We appreciate the focus on that and the extra effort that's been worked towards, but I think as far as the master plan goes, there's some other stuff on there that you know, may be okay, could push out that far, in general terms. I mean, that's my understanding.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
When they bring that capital improvement plan before you for your review, it's broke down into the different phases for that project, and one phase is a walking trail and a historical story of what happened there, and just that trail itself and the story that'll go along with it, it's like right at $1 million. So there are some things about that master plan that, although we would like to see them all done, those are going to be some things, you know, that may not come up in as far as your priorities being at the top of your priority when you start allocating your dollars.
I would think that the important part is that we cooperate and stay in contact with the Sling group to make sure that our time capital propositions are in line with their expectations, and if not, then we have a discussion about it.
Sure.
Thanks.
More discussion? Our next scheduled meeting is October the 14th. Be held at 10 a.m. in Bull Hollow with a fish fry. And we will come back to here for the afternoon meetings.
Monday the 10th, 14th, 13th.
This is October the 13th. Thank you, ma'am. And then no 5 p.m. legislative conference today. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?